For this fun project series, we're going to make a folded star block. It can be used as a pot holder or a trivet. We're going to start with an 8-inch block of scrap fabric. And set some creases. This will be the foundation to our star. We want to mark 1.5 inches out from the center, and then 3/4 of an inch, and another 3/4 of an inch, and another 3/4 of an inch on each spoke. That's our foundation piece. So you take your 3-inch squares. First you fold them, and you fold them in half to make a little square. And you fold the bottom fold up to meet that crease you made in the middle. And the last one goes up there too. So you end up with a folded triangle that looks like this. And we're going to do that with 4 of these little ones. And we're going to leave one alone and set it aside. Okay, now we have 3.5-inch squares, and we're going to do the same thing. We have 8 of them, and we're going to do fold all 8 in that way. So all total you have 5 3-inch squares, 8 3.5-inch squares, 8 4-inch squares, and 8 4.5-inch squares. All of them get folded like this, except for one of the 3-inch squares. And now my 4.5-inch squares. I just want to put a little side note in here. If you don't want to press them all with an actual iron, you can finger press them. They won't be as crisp. You can press them after the whole thing's sewn together. Or you can use a little tool. It's like a roller wooden wheel. And they actually use it when they're doing screen printing to get the paint into the screen. And that works well too. I'll show you one of those. This is what I'm talking about. You don't use it on a soft surface. You use it on a hard surface. And this is how it works. It's like finger pressing, but you get a better result. So that's a good tool to have with you. And it does a nice crease. You can see. Pressed and ready to go. Now we go back to our 3-inch square, and we're going to get it ready to line up the little ones on top of it. This becomes our foundation for the center of the block. So I just fold it on the diagonal to give myself a little grid to go by. And each one of these gets placed on the 3-inch square with the raw edges even with one side and the point in the center. And we stitch around just the outside edges. Okay, so now I have my foundation piece that I marked earlier, and I'm going to put this square right in the middle of it, and I'm going to line up my lines with the sides and my diagonals on the diagonals, and I'm just going to stitch it in place. The registration marks that I made are right on the edge all the way around. we don't see these stitches when we're done with the finished block. So there it is, sewn to the foundation piece. The next step is to take the next size block, and we're going to line these up towards the center. And the registration mark will be right along the edge of the raw edge. So the next one goes on the diagonal line. And we want that registration mark again right at the edge of our raw edge. So here's my finished block. Now I'm going to quilt it. I've cut a piece of backing fabric, 8 inches square, and I have a piece of regular batting that I'm going to use because this fabric is so thick. It doesn't really need an insulated batting, but they do make Insulbright, which is heat resistant, and you can buy that online or at Joann's. So you sandwich them all together, and now you're going to quilt from each of the edges of your octagon towards the center and then right back out again to the other side, following in the ditch in between those folds on every single seam. I took my 1/4 inch foot off and I put a regular foot on there, and I'm going with white thread on the top and black thread on the bobbin because my backing is black. To make the tab, you cut a piece of the binding, and then you fold in one side, you fold in the middle, and press it, and then the other side, you fold into the middle, and press it, and then you fold it on itself, give it another press, and then you top stitch it around both edges, and sometimes I put one in the middle too, just for decoration. Okay, so I've got about 27 inches of binding that I've put around this pot holder. I've taken the beginning of the binding, I've folded it in, and then the end of the binding gets tucked right inside that fold. And then I take the little tab that I made, and I'm going to fold it like this. And I'm going to put the raw edges even underneath the binding. If I want a shorter loop, I can just bring up the ends like this. And so now I'm going to stitch it all the way around, just a little scant 1/4 inch. So I just blind stitched the binding around the back. I flipped the loop up and I top stitched it along here, and then it's done. Also very useful as a trivet.